Hi, so let's start now with the first of the manga reading spree. So, this one I've been reading, and I very much love this manga. It's called The Eminence in Shadow. So, let's start. So, from the very beginning, we see our main character, his little kid is watching. I guess he's watching anime, or whatever. And he sees like this person in the show, in the Eminence in Shadow, like the character's always behind the scenes doing stuff, as he's calling it the power in the power from the shadows. And it seems like he got encouragement to try to become one. You see like his body's like super huge. He's like practicing all kinds of like martial arts, and he's like super body strength that he has. Another thing too, he's like, he wants to be like a mob character, like an unnoticeable character, but from his huge body mass, everyone's staring at him, and he's just calmly just sitting there in class reading this book and not caring the world. But like he's also, he's not, well, I want to say he's not delusional, but he is, but he sees the limits of himself, so he sees like he can still be beaten with guns or nukes or whatever, so he's like going insane trying to figure out something that can stop such powerful weapons. He decided on magic. He did quite a lot of stuff, like from what I see, he's like meditating over a waterfall, fasting, observing the teachings of Buddhism, yoga, more meditating. He strapped himself onto a cross, and he prayed, and then like the last part before his inevitable reincarnation to the fantasy world, he was in the forest, naked, bashing his head against a tree to try to achieve magic somehow. I guess we're going insane or something here. And eventually, he saw his magic. Two lights in distance, and it turned out to be like any classic into another world story. A truck, and he died. And funny enough too, like, the manga starts him off as a classic thing, he's a little kid, has an older sister who's practicing with swords and stuff, magic is a thing. He's like showing off as weak as his older sister, showing off the magic, the powers of magic in this world. It's like pretending to be happy and everything, but then like we start seeing his true side. He's well, in the manga you see that there's in parentheses protagonist, so that's like he's gonna be act way different than what a normal protagonist would be acting. And then like we're showing that he's already mastered a lot of magic, as he's holding like rocks with his fingertips and like slicing them in half with his bare hands. And his next objective is raiding a bandit camp. He's honestly, if you like ignore bits with the tag stuff of how the bandits are talking about like robbing people and just like focus on him, he like jumps into the middle of the campfire and like threatens them to like basically give me your money. So it seems like he's the bad guy instead. But, and even like in quotation marks, well, parentheses, protagonist is there to state how crazy he is already. But then he proceeds to test out his new equipment. He completely decimates and destroys his entire bandit camp. And in fact, it seems like he's the villain in the situation, just killing them and using them as test subjects. After ending everyone, he found a decomposed corpse. Okay, no, not exactly decomposed. It's decomposing, but it's still alive. And because he found out that incredible magic is coming out of his body, he decided instead of ending its misery, or selling it off to the church, he could test it and run experiments to see what he can achieve out of this. So after the experiments, it turned out to be a blonde elf like his age. And of course, because he saved her life, she didn't want to just accept his statement or accept his he just wanted to tell her just leave, I'm fine with myself. But she wanted to stay, so he decided to ask do you want to be my follower? And you can see the confusion on her face. She has no idea what he's talking about. So then he started to make up his story, which it isn't all too completely made up, since he's drawing details from the fairy tales that exist in the world, which is about the demon Diablos, and that's because they're a descendant of the hero, and the church is taking advantage of this because they're evil, stuff like that. So he eventually tells the story. He takes his role as he's gonna be the one who's gonna battle the cult. He's leading the organizations to stand against them. So she's super convinced. He even makes up his organization on the spot. I can read it right here. It says, "We are Shadow Garden. We lurk in the shadows and we hunt the shadows." It's his main phrase he has throughout this entire manga. So then she's very determined to join the cause, and she became the first one to join. Although he's just yes, my improvised act was good, while she's believing the entire thing. And yeah, that's the first chapter done. It's a pretty amazing first chapter and how it goes. The main character is completely different than other mangas I've ever seen before. Yeah, so that's the first chapter. I'll get to the second chapter soon. Bye.